All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm joined with Sheila Holm and Juan Savin. This is going to be an epic podcast. Going to learn a lot here today. You know that Sheila is full of information and research, and Juan as well. Very connected, folks. Juan, Juanito, can you hear me, El Juanito?
Nino.
And Sheila, we don't have any kind of I don't have any way to introduce you like that, but hey, welcome, Sheila.
You already told everybody I'm full of it. I get it. I'm here.
So, all right. So, Juan, I was having a discussion with you last night, and um, a lot of people don't know where we're at in the game right now in the operation. A lot of people say, it took it forever to release the Epstein files. Pam Bonnie's compromised. This whole thing's a bunch of garbage. But I'm under the impression that, we had to make them salivate and have their fangs and claws out for the Epstein files. And now that they're out, people are really chomping down into these Epstein files, learning a lot of stuff they wish they never would have heard or seen or read. And now they're saying, man, we need justice. We need justice for the Epstein victims, and we need to put these clients behind bars or execute them even. The citizens look like they're starting to really get impatient, but that's all part of it, right? I mean, isn't this kind of the drip, 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 drop? And is this leading to where is this leading? That's, I guess, the main question there. I guess, Juan,
Well, I
you want to
think,
answer this first?
when you, for example, if you're interviewing somebody in a criminal investigation security situation, you'll do things that raise their attention level. They may come in all relaxed, don't figure that they got a problem, and then you got to get them fully focused on their situation. They may not realize that you have video or other information that makes it very clear what they did, but you give them a chance to explain themselves. And in the course of that, you may add a word or two or a statement or two that let them know that you're not a country bumpkin on the matter. And then let them start explaining themselves. And you raise their attention level so they're much more fully focused. They realize the situation they're in because you want truthful answers. And the more they realize that that's not going to cut it, the more that they, get fully engaged. In its own way, within the Epstein stuff, think of all the clues that we've had concerning this global cabal, if you will. You had WikiLeaks, and all of the revelations that came out of the DNC servers. They claimed it was Russia hacked them. It wasn't Russia. It was Seth Rich. They claimed that it was all a lie, but then nobody can look at it, including government employees. And the public it was so shocking, so extreme. Adrenochrome, that people disconnected. They didn't want to hear it. It took time for the public to come around that this could be actually true. Look at the commentary by so many, even mainstream people, where they've come out over the last week or so and said, oh my gosh, maybe Pizzagate was true after all.
Yes.
You had multiple people say that. Now, even right now to this audience, you're probably shocked a little bit that I'm even using these terms or these words because they seemed like they went away. But if you're paying attention to what came out in these things, one of the key things, Epstein himself talks about that he is a creation of the Rothschilds. And then there's all this stuff about Baal and Moloch stuff. Remember in the WikiLeaks, Hillary said, I'm going to have to her campaign manager, she's running for president, her campaign manager, Podesta, and her talking about the situation because it's becoming apparent that she's losing in the 2016 presidential election. So her response is, maybe it's time for me to sacrifice a chicken to Moloch. You think she's kidding, but chicken means young boy. And even to kid around with something like that is over the top.
Golly, man.
And think about this. Hillary is also the one that wanted to do a campaign rally in Central Park in a copy of the Archway of Baal from the city of Baal, which ISIS blew up the original and probably was done for ritualistic reasons. But these copies of that archway were put in various parts of the world. She wanted to have one brought over from France, and she was going to speak in it. Well, an archway is considered to be a portal, and it has symbolic meaning. Why would you want to do a campaign rally in an archway to a city, a gate, a portal over time? What was the deal about the city of Baal? That's where child sacrifice was practiced. The reason the people in that region destroyed the city of Baal, it doesn't exist now, and just left one archway to note this is where the place was, the crime scene, is because that's where children were sacrificed classically. That's the tale, the myth of Baal. That's where child sacrifice was practiced.
All right, I'm going to bring up a
Hillary,
picture
well,
here.
think about this. Hold on, let me just complete this thought. Hillary wanted to speak in that archway on U.S. soil prior to the presidential election. And she also is texting with her campaign manager about, in code, go to the FBI stuff on pedophilia, and chicken is a young male boy. Okay. This is a theme. And then, and then, in the stuff that we have with Epstein, more and more material is coming out about Baal worship, satanic worship. And now you have a relative of Epstein who's coming out, a young gal, who's saying that the whole family
and by the way,
practices Baal worship.
I asked about that. I asked Sean Atwood today about that. She goes, she has gone dark. She's radio silent. She's having a nervous breakdown, her family said.
Yeah, well,
She's like, she's in fear. She's in fear of her life.
Well, okay, Nino, stop for 1 second and think about what just happened in the last 24 hours with you and me in the background. We won't go into details, but you had someone else who was coming out in a very extreme way about the exact same issues, was being threatened in a very tangible, real way,
Scary.
and being forced, either you come out and renounce and denounce everything you've done, or we're coming after you, and they're leaving a trail to the house
Yeah,
where he
it's
lives.
scary.
Okay, so the threats are real, even within the broader community. You have to understand that you're talking about satanic tribes who are practicing these things right there in plain sight. Remember the whole thing about human sacrifice with Maria Abramovich is part of the WikiLeaks files, where in the DNC communications, including Hillary and other people, they're talking, they're praising this woman who uses bodily fluids in her artwork, and where they have parties and pretend supposedly that they're eating human flesh, people. Okay. I mean, it's Soylent Green, but with a satanic twist. You can't diminish what you're hearing here, and the public's attention level is now getting raised, and people that blew this off or even accused us of being over the top are having to think again, because you only have 3 million of the 6 million pages out. The worst of the Epstein stuff is still to come.
I was going to show you. Here she is right here. I kind of lost track, but I was going to show a picture of the Trump. What about Trump's? Here's Maria Abramovich right here. Epstein files mention artist accused of Satanism, sparks backlash. All that is evil and dark. I heard she's having a hard time going anywhere. I can't remember who told me this. I don't know if it was you, Juanito, but she can't even go to a restaurant. People are booing her, throwing things at her. If that's the truth, I can't remember who told me that.
That was someone else. I didn't say anything
someone
like that,
told me
but,
that,
yeah.
and I can't remember who told me that. But
Well, remember, it's not even a her; it's a him. But
this is a him.
Yes.
It looks like a chick to me.
Yeah, well,
And my radar must be off. What the hell's going on, Juanito? Um,
yeah.
so, okay, but hold on. So I was going to show this as well. Right here. Boom. Trump forges ahead with plans to build a 250-foot an arc, despite concerns on the ground and in the air. Like, so what if these are
Well,
portals?
arc would have a K.
What the hell is he building a
Arch is
portal
an
for?
H.
Says,
The symbology goes both ways, and so it's a portal, but a portal to where? The question is, are you, you know, in their symbology? What we're doing is we're canceling out things that they say they want to have arches. We'll build a bigger one. Ours will be to the good side. Is kind of the theme.
okay, so
Um,
but why do we even have to play in that sandbox? Why do we even have to do
I
that?
don't know that.
I
I
mean, if
don't
we're
know that.
believers in God and God is the only way, why do we have to even play there? Why do we have to build
I
anything?
don't know, Nino, that I would do that. I don't think that I personally would. But the other side of the coin is you're in a uh, steal the other guy's ball. Okay, stop them getting to play their game. Take it over in some, observational way. Their symbology, we capture it, capturing the flag. Okay, uh, so there's probably that in there somewhere. And I'm not saying that Trump gets the best advice from people around him. It's not perfect, or even in what they're doing. So, they have a particular perspective, whatever.
Well,
You have all sorts of symbology around Washington D.C.
let me get
Uh, you
to
know,
let me ask Sheila here. Sheila, I know that you're an avid researcher, and I know if anyone knows what the hell is going on right now, I know you keep in touch with Juan constantly. What are we looking at here with these files? I'm surprised there's a lot of names in there that I've been told were going to be dropped that I don't see. One of them being Tom Hanks, Will Smith. What's going on with this?
Well, I think you've seen the new reports that she gave a device to every single person in the Congress, House and Senate, and said all the files were on there. And they've all been looking at them. But do they not realize all the metadata that they're collecting? And so there's a lot of news out there that she's set the trap, they fell in the trap. Now we got all the information. There's a lot of guys coming out and saying how horrific it is, but they're going ahead and watching the videos anyway. But it is horrific. Satanic worship is beyond comprehension. And I keep mentioning there's only two kingdoms. So you've got to decide which one you're in. And those of you who are dabbling in all this stuff in the world, you think it's all okay. Father said, you can do what these Gentiles do. You may not think you're being evil, but you're of no good to me either. And he said that right in the description on cutting down a tree and ornamenting it with silver and gold. And I've been on interviews where where it's interactive and they'll bounce right back and say, well, I'm not ornamenting it with silver and gold. And I'm using a fake tree. I'm getting one of those fancy ones. I forget what they call them that you can order and it comes in a box and it brings its own ornaments. And she said, and I make ornaments with my nieces and nephews. I don't use silver and gold. And it's like, you can be in that kind of a discussion, but you're in the other kingdom. You're not. Father's saying, don't do these things,
So,
and
what do
you
you think
do
about
them,
Trump
and that's your
building?
choice.
What do you think about Trump building the arch?
Is that what he's really doing? Do they
Yeah,
really know what he's doing in building the
boom, there
ballroom?
you go.
Everybody's trying to look at what's happening at the top. If we don't start working in our little villages, I've been saying this again and again. If you haven't been out there doing petitions, when we did a petition to get rid of Newsom, and we got more petition signatures, and they put him right back on the ballot, and he supposedly won with less votes than the number of petition signatures. And I mean, that's not the whole problem. We have such a problem that if you're out there doing petitions, you can be in the little villages. And it's all across the nation because when we did the one in Wisconsin, it was the identical pattern. And that's why I love that Trump is doing the template pattern in Minnesota for what we have to do in all of our states, is that it's all the same. The villages, you can go into a village and you're talking to neighbors on one side of the street, and they're saying how somebody has a different opinion on the other side of the street, and they wanted to talk to them about it. These two sides of the street had no idea. They're in different districts. They're voting for different people. And nobody really knows who they're voting for because they think they're voting for the same people as their neighbors. They have so changed everything. California just went through one vote, one item They didn't go through that. I can go in with a notary and I can take your kids out of the school because I've got a notary and I can take your kids out of school. They didn't go to vote on that. They voted on, we want to change the district structures, but only for the next 3 elections. 26, 28, and 30. And then we're going to go back, and it's only going to cost the counties a few $1,000,000 each. Well, they spent $2.5 million just putting out the notice of doing the stupid election.
Wow.
And that's the only thing the election was on. But people don't understand that there are problems, but that you want Trump to fix everything. You want the people that you can't trust in your representatives to fix everything. And we have villages that are so separated that we don't even know who we're voting for. And Trump can't come in and fix your community. Trump can't come in and fix this whole thing. And the people who did this to us were not the Somalis. They were the people in America, in the systems, who were able to give them Social Security money without working here, give them the grants and the money to do these companies and the millions of dollars that they're getting, that they don't even have the company. That all had to be set up by people internally in America.
I think Juan
The
actually
top woman right now in Minnesota who's setting up all the riots and everything else. Did you know that she's running for state senate in Minnesota? I mean, we're not looking at, and I've got Norwegians all throughout Minnesota. I used to say we didn't get to go see any sites when I was a kid. We went and visited relatives every year, and we would get to one farm and they would see our Nebraska license plate, and then they would call and say,
right,
they got to come to our farm. And nobody knew that that woman who's setting up the riots, who's making sure they get trained, there's training sessions for it. That woman looks like your neighbor.
So you see Newsom being very defiant towards Trump. He rejoined the World Health Organization with California.
Which he cannot do.
Right.
He cannot do that.
Okay, but he did it. He did it. So what's going to be the ramifications for that? Well, what's going to happen?
He's going to have to, because that's against the Constitution. You can't as a state. That's our problem. When this goes all the way back
but
to
he
Woodrow
did do
Wilson.
it. Like I'm not making that up. I'll pull it up right here. You saw this, right? Newsom did rejoin.
He has no authority to. What I'm saying is he has no authority to do that. He's in the Constitution. No state can go make diplomatic national decisions and set us up in contracts around the world.
Let me just help you out here, Nino. These activities are ultimately seditious. You have seditious activities by numerous governors across the country operating as though they have exclusive right from a state position to do these types of agreements with international organizations or with other countries. And their legal rights to do that are far more limited than they express. So what's going to have to happen is there's going to be a standoff and a challenge over who's got authority in these things. And so within the broader subject of a national security crisis in which Trump is going to have to declare an emergency, it's quite likely that at some point the crisis will be extended from the matter of elections out into other issues. And that's just going to have to happen. You're going to, there's a states' rights side, but there's constitutional limits to states' rights. You've got to do something to rein them in. And that's exactly what Trump's going to do.
So it seems to me like there's like the blue
states. Isn't it true that just a second, Nino? Isn't it true that Congress and Senate don't have that authority either? You're supposed to be representing your state, and they've become international and flying all over international, making deals international, bringing in deals international. That's not supposed to be happening either.
You there, Juanito? You lost. I think you're muted, Juanito. You're muted. You mute your.
I muted on purpose. I was trying to not be disruptive because I had some background noise. I apologize. But again, there's going to have to be a line in the sand drawn. Prior presidents and groups have not, been clear on these things, and you can't have the country operating in a dysfunctional way. That's why we have a constitution. There's certain order and limitations to all involved. And it's become a mismatch hodgepodge. Even the idea of entering into certain agreements with the UN or with international organizations as though they have some type of governing authority is limited within the Constitution to congressional approval. And you don't just get to go do these things. So, but you have America handing over rights in hundreds of different areas to unelected international bodies, which include places like WHO. And part of the reason that's happened and ties back into Epstein and other similar operations is that the people who should be challenging these things or saying no are compromised. They've been honeypotted, blackmailed, uh, uh, paid off in various ways. I mean, the whole way that you got the Federal Reserve into existence and the Internal Revenue Service was through frauds in Congress and votes, and even the mis uh, uh, stating of the numbers in the votes into various records that were not true. But nobody came in and challenged at the time because you had a captured system.
I feel like it seems to me like these blue states like Newsom and many other states are reportedly going to follow suit with what Newsom does. It's almost like they're preparing for this standoff that's going to come probably around, if I had to guess, around midterms, where after Trump signs that executive order for fair and secure elections and in-person paper ballot, like they're getting ready for some kind of chaos, some kind of civil unrest. And then what, to secede from the union? Is that going to be what they try to do?
Well, let me say it this way. It's not at the midterms. I would say it's on the march to the midterms. And by the way, this should really be present in everybody's minds. And I'm going to emphasize this over and over again over the next few weeks. Part of the way that we're getting falsity in the elections is that the primaries are cooked. You're thinking of the main election in the fall, but when you, for example, look at what Seth Rich was upset with. You had a candidate that he was backing running for the president that was having mischief done to him during the primary season, so Hillary could be the candidate coming into 2016. And so he was pissed off because of the mischief that Hillary and her campaign manager did, and the head of the DNC and other things. The primary, in many ways, is more important than the main election because you're throttled down to somebody else's choice for who's going to be. I point back to Utah. Utah is headed for another complete, total falsehood within its primary season, so that when you go to the general election, all you have is their choice for Democrat or Republican.
So why isn't Trump signing this executive order right now?
Whatever his reason is, I would just add that this has been gamed out pretty hard, and it has to do with the public's attention level and participation and understanding the issues. There's things that if Trump did it a year ago when he first came into office or anywhere along the way, the public wouldn't have been ready for these next actions. It was out of sequence, out of time. And so the public is the driver here, as they can absorb it and take it in. And if they can't take the data feed rate, then actions would be happening in a vacuum. And so the public's attention level has to come up in order to be able to absorb the data in a useful way. It's
okay.
Just back to life.
So, Sheila, do you feel like, with all the research you've done and the people you're talking to, that this year, 2026, has to be the year of action, but it's also going to be the year of backlash, civil unrest, chaos? I mean, are you seeing that the way I see it? Because I'm seeing this unfold right now. And if Trump does make the move, which I believe, Juan, that this executive order will be signed and declare a national emergency, I got to believe the Democrats are going to go into meltdown and throw the chessboard in the air and say, that's it, hit the red button.
Well, hold on. Let me add something here, Sheila. I apologize. Let me jump in here for 1 second. For example, I've had several conversations now over the last week or so with real movers and shakers in a lot of the information that I think is critical to be out to the public. These are serious organizations that affect millions of people's thoughts and understandings. In talking with a number of these leaders, it's clear to me that, as one of the gals said the other day, when I was going into the national emergency declaration by President Trump, a national security emergency exists within the election framework. The instant response was that's overreaching. He's going to be hated for it. He can't do it. They're going to challenge him and everything else. Now, this is somebody that, in my mind, should understand the issues much better, a very political animal. And yet they do not see, can't comprehend the revelations that are right here, right now, just at the edge of coming out concerning the 2020 election and the foreign interference. Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, China, and then some NATO partners, all involved in cooking the 2020 election. And the data that's coming forward, the stuff that's already being presented to grand juries, is absolutely stunning. And I think personally incontrovertible. So as the public becomes aware of that, their attitudes would change and there would be a greater understanding, acceptance of the fact that Trump has to go to an extreme measure to protect the constitutional rights to a fair election. And it's the only way because it was a wartime action. It was an attack on America by other countries to cook the vote and put people into power who were not the will of the American people. But when you have major influencers and organizations that don't get this and therefore would speak out almost instantaneously against somebody they otherwise like, against Trump for taking these actions as though he's out of step and is doing something that's overreaching, then we're not there yet. There has to be a greater, education of what's going on. And they think it's education about the choices of candidates and foreign policy and things like that. And my response is no, it's education about the nature of the fight that we're truly in. These policy things that you want to do at this point are down the road. It's like saying, I want to reorganize Berlin and I want to reorganize the way that people operate there so they don't bomb other people other places. Excuse me, you haven't even broken out of France yet. And you're already reorganizing Berlin. They're still getting ready to have the Battle of the Bulge with you. You got to finish the fight. And part of that fight is taking control in a very tangible way of the way this election is going to happen. It's not about educating people about the
Well,
candidates.
that would tell
You
me.
can't have an honest election until you stop
Well,
what's going on, and it's only able to be done. You can't legislate it. You can't do it through a courtroom.
got
It
it.
is an emergency action, an executive action, which isn't an executive order. It's a declaration of a national emergency.
Okay.
Stop everything, grab a hold of, the process, and we can't proceed further the way we are. This isn't about, well, let's do the election machines better.
Right. So let me ask Sheila on this. Sheila, I mean, would this be the time for people who have always wanted to run for office to run? Because I mean, if it's going to be fair, that tells me that the Republicans and Democrats are going to lose from the underdog. The underdog has a chance now. The people that have always wanted to run for office and just always thought, well, it's rigged. There's no reason I'm going to run. They should run this year, 2026.
I'm not really certain there will be a 2026. I'm just going to toss that out there. You were
Okay, so you
asking
think that
before
it's going to
about the
be
shift. You weren't hearing the shift in the people, and you wanted to ask me about that. I've
right?
seen it, I've witnessed it, and I'm getting a lot of feedback that they're now finally getting it. What I had to do was I had to shift to start talking about things from a 40,000 foot view. With
So wait,
all
hold
with
on,
God
Sheila.
telling
You're
us this
telling
and
me
all of this being true, we're focused on the wrong things. So if we want to keep going focused on the wrong things and we want to keep listening to people who we don't know, instead of asking the Father, should I be listening to these people? Because look at what just happened in Minnesota. And I did this example, I think it was about a week and a half ago. President Trump sent this message out, and he said, as you guys know, I sent VP Vance out to Minnesota, and they declined to get the help. He said it very brilliantly. I'm just paraphrasing. Then he said, I sent out Homan, and remember, we all got excited because Homan was going to go out. He was going to do a report. He was going to get it back to the president. Things were going to, rock and roll. They declined his help. And he said, with 40 years experience, he declined his help. And so I don't know, I don't remember the guy's first name, but I gave the whole thing out plus the video that they sent with it. And President Trump said, so now I'm sending out Gerard. And Gerard knows how to go and see what the special needs are, and then he'll know how to take the actions and he'll accomplish it. And then he goes, oh, I should probably have given you a bigger introduction. The guy happens to be the general over the 101st Airborne. And then when you see the video, at the end of it is the 187th Infantry. So he's sending these guys because we're going to get the job done. And he said, oh, and by the way, they're coming by helicopter. Okay. So then the video, and this is what was so important, the video was the guys getting ready to go, and they weren't getting ready to go by fueling up. People didn't realize when they hook underneath, those are the ropes underneath, and they drop down by ropes is what they're going to be doing. And so they're not going to just land in a Walmart parking lot and get out and talk to people. That's not what's going to happen. And it's feeding into something that just happened last night in Northern California that I can't wait to tell you about. But anyway, and it's all related because every state has the same problems. So when they did this, what did they do? They added a video, a guy and one of the military people saying, I heard a prompting from the Lord, and he wondered who he could send. And I said, send me. And that's why I made it loud and clear that that was what was happening. And do you know, this is so much of a shift to what's happening because everybody wants the Somalis taken care of. They want them out. The same week, everybody ignored that the Iranians were getting 42 million to do daycares and that didn't have any daycare kids in them. The same thing's happening in California since the 80s. And so you don't just get rid of the Somalis, you got to take care of what the problem is. And if you don't take an overview from up above and see it's happening everywhere, it's in all the states, you can't keep wanting Trump to fix it. You can't keep wanting other people to fix it. We have to understand that this all happened on our watch. And the people that are helping them do all of this are the people that are already in your neighborhoods. They have that belief system, but they're fewer and fewer. Now, I've already seen the shift where the people are ready, but they don't want a civil war because I've already talked about that constantly. They don't want civil unrest. They're willing to sit back and let the guys come in and take care of it the way they're doing it in Minnesota. But one of the most miraculous things that a friend witnessed last night and actually sent the pictures, and I can send them to you. Do you know that there are airport terminals that are filled late in the evening with people deporting?
no, I mean, I've
Self-deporting.
heard there's some deportations, but
I've got the pictures, and they filled every single
can you
section
send it to me
in
right
the
now so I
terminal.
can show them?
I can text them to you right now. And it was late at night, and there was nobody else boarding, and they weren't going anywhere in America. Every one of these flights was going
And this
to
is
another country.
self-deportation, but I've heard we're giving them money to self-deport. I've heard that
$1,000.
I thought it
to
was more than that.
self-deport.
I heard it was like $2,500, $3,000 for people to deport.
$1,000 if you'll self-deport. Somebody said they were going to raise it to try and get them to go, but there's a difference between
But let me
social
tell you something.
media
I know being on the
saying what they're
border,
saying and what's actually happening.
I'm on the border here, and I'm hearing that there's tons of people still flowing into Juarez, Ciudad Juarez, getting ready to bombard and rush America, Biden 2.0 in 2028. That's what's happening here.
Why do you suppose they stopped all your air flights? I told you it was going to be 3
That was
days.
a
I
drug
think now it went
cartel.
to
That was a
10.
drug cartel drone, from what I understand.
And
So
that's all the public. Again, take the 40,000-foot view. You don't think they knew about the rush that was going to be coming in? But you and I can't take care of it. And what's happening, when we keep talking headlines with people, we're keeping them in fear. And then it's too much for us to handle. And now they're going to have 40,000 more people coming across the border. And how are we going to handle that? and that's not where the people need to be focused. But I've
Well,
seen a
hold
shift
on.
in the
Let
people.
me
They're
add
not
something.
agreeing with all that.
Let me just add this for both of you. This is not the Biden or Obama administration. And if you think that 40,000 is just going to come charging across and we're not going to raise the bar to stop it and Trump's not going to take action, that gives Trump the reason to do exactly what he would do. He would raise the bar radically to stop that. And you're not going to get those people through. You just have to decide you're going to do it. He'll send 10,000 guys down there if he has to stop it. And by the way, that's also not remembering that the president of Mexico just days ago, and I pointed this out to you privately. I mean, it's public, but I just raised it with you. I don't think I said it in the show. He worked a deal with the president of Mexico for the U.S. troops to actually actively engage with cartel operations in across the border, and we have numerous reports. I had the guys on the phone the other day talking to me about what they were doing, active, real gunfights with cartel locations in northern Mexico.
So our troops are already there.
Yeah, they have approval to go in and go across the border to deal with it. And part of the rest of the story, is I've told your audience before we're done, the intention is, and I think it'll fully happen 1,000%, is you're going to create a buffer zone into Mexico somewhere between 10 and 30 miles. And we will enforce that region. It'll be essentially a free trade zone in part, but the cartel operations, if we encounter them and Mexico has a problem, we'll take care of it.
Dude, I don't know how Claudia Sheinbaum's alive. If she's a
well,
shit, it's like, how is she alive?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, hold on a second.
Blown away.
We get a vote. The bad guys might want to take their vote. Okay. We know where they live. We know where their girlfriends live, and their family lives, their grandma lives. You go see just how fluffy we're going to be.
Are we just so
Trump
busy
with anybody else? He will come back in a New Yorker way, and he'll kick him in the ass hard, punch him in the face. And if they're going to kill people, we're going to kill people back. He is not going to play nice guy.
I remember living through the Ciudad Juarez cartel wars in early 2000s into 2013, and it was insane. You hear gunfire, 60 people getting mowed down at a time. It was a ghost time. Nobody was leaving ghost town. Nobody was leaving their houses. People were terrified. They were scared. Bullets were even flying to El Paso.
Well, let's qualify that. Let's qualify that. It was more dangerous to live in Mexico, in northern Mexico, than it was to live in Afghanistan.
Yes. Okay. And I witnessed
People had no concept.
I witnessed it. So I'm asking you, what are we just taking so many of them down covertly right now that none of this is kicking off? Well, wait a second. I'm in disbelief that we haven't seen any cartel warfare like extreme, like what I witnessed.
Well, again, they have limited resources. They have limited numbers of players. All we have to do is decide we're going to fight them. And this whole thing, don't underestimate the ability of U.S. military to deal with these problems. We just haven't had we've been doing it with both hands tied behind the neck. The only thing we could do is give them a head whomp once in a while. But Trump won't operate that way. And he's made it very clear he's not going to operate that way. Look, Venezuela was a problem for 35 years. And Trump went in and took care of it in a few weeks. We're not playing nice guy. We're going in there because these are war criminals. They are killing Americans with the drugs coming in, with the crime family operations here in the U.S. We're going to go take care of it. And even look at how Trump dealt with the gangs up in, for example, Denver. The governor and the mayors up there weren't touching these gangs that were fully established, taking over people's entire apartment complexes as though they just could do anything they wanted. It wasn't until Trump came in, and I've mentioned this before. I was watching the inauguration and was getting texts literally 15 minutes into Trump's inauguration speech. Hey, I just got orders. I've been activated. I'm supposed to report, such and so, in just a few hours. And those guys that were activated were going out and picking up gang leaders across America who were designated as terrorists within the next several days. Okay. Trump got that going while he was still
While he was
speaking.
taking his oath.
Those orders were going out. Okay. People were being activated. He didn't waste 1 second in going after.
So I got this. Let me ask you this. So, and I want to get your insight from both of you here. It seems like, though, the Democrats are trying to get ahead of the ball. They're expecting what Trump's going to do. It says here, Pelosi warns of Trump surveillance ahead of midterms. It's not right. Nancy Pelosi warned MS Now about surveillance by the intelligence operation ahead of the midterm elections, telling Democrats to not put anything past President Donald Trump. Pelosi joined MSN Now's the weekend on Saturday from Munich, where she is attending the annual Munich Security Conference. She said she has been assuring European leaders at the conference that she has absolute certainty Democrats will take control of the House Representatives despite her many concerns about the elections. Pelosi said she is alarmed by the involvement of Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard in an FBI raid on the polling station in Fulton County, Georgia, to retrieve 2020 ballots. I hear that all over the United States, not just in Europe, but there's concern about the election. They're very concerned. Let me just say that surveillance by the intelligence operation of our country, surveillance is our own country, is something that is absolutely not to be allowed. And now, if there's some particular reason, there's one thing, but for them, for Tulsi to be looking into elections is really not right. It's unlawful. It's not right. So they're trying to get ahead of the ball here. Like, what are they?
Hold on,
do?
Nino. Stop.
Nino.
Hold on.
I know. I'm just reading what it says.
No, let me make a quick statement observation. What Hillary is saying is that they're using
Pelosi.
Or Pelosi, excuse me, is saying is that they're using policing forces, if you will, intelligence forces, military forces. Of course, Tulsi is about, from her position as director of national intelligence, is about looking at outside of the U.S. countries, taking actions, groups, industry, et cetera, taking action against America. And that it somehow is wrong for Tulsi to be involved internally where normally policing action would be appropriate. What you're missing here is that the reason for Tulsi being involved is exactly what I've told you and your audience multiple times over and over and over. We were attacked by China, Cuba, all these other countries out of Serbia. We had operatives within our own intelligence agencies that were working collusively with foreign countries to overthrow the government of the United States, not with bombs and bullets, but with fake ballots to put their people in charge. But it was a foreign attack on America. An attack on the vote is the same as a nuclear attack or a biological attack as a weapon of mass destruction, according to international law. So having Tulsi involved should be a clue to everybody listening here. Why was she involved? Don't they know what their limitations of power and involvement are? That there should be a rope line and she doesn't cross it? No. The reason that she was there observing, and it was totally lawful, nobody's going to charge her with anything, is because the interference in Georgia was foreign interference. It originated outside the United States. There was collusion by people inside the United States in what was done in Georgia. That's what you should take away from that. And therefore, a national emergency, a national security emergency is appropriate. The people haven't quite grasped that yet. And so there's more disclosures, including what's going into the grand juries.
Okay, but here's from your words exactly last night. last night when we were on the phone together, you said, I said, Juan, they still have the arrogance. They still very confident they're going to win. You said, absolutely, but they're going to try to burn it all down. They still don't
Yep.
believe they will lose, and they will go to
No,
every
if they
measure
think
scorched earth. They're going to go scorched earth. You
that
said that.
Trump, I know, if they think that Trump has a prayer and they're going to lose, they will do whatever they have to, even to the point of burning everything down. At the point it's obvious that they would make it, they would try. Doesn't mean they get away with it. Everything is on the line right now. That's why, I say prayer required.
So that's my point, and I'm trying to. And Sheila, I mean, they really want to bring us to this scorched earth scenario, civil unrest. But
Nino, let me give the facts about Fulton County, because I'm right here and on the Georgia show a lot. Fulton County did have Cash Patel involved. Yes, there was a raid. Yes, everything was done by the rule of law. Yes, everything was done impeccably. Yes, they didn't give everything. What they did give, there were 315,000 ballots that absolutely had no reason to even be in there, and every one of them was for Biden, of the 315,000.
yeah,
And Biden only won Georgia by 11,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 315,000 completely fraudulent ballots that they have. Now, here's the funny part. They've done some replacement. The things that the other items they were supposed to give, they didn't give. And they were warned because this wasn't the first time the subpoena was served. They made him jump through all sorts of hoops to get this raid. Okay. So by the time he got the subpoena in there, and then what did they have their spokesman person out saying the same day that the raid happened? I'm here. And the whole drama thing, right? I'm here, and guys, we're going to either file an injunction against this. And she was using every legal term she could think of. I don't know if she's an attorney, and she's in the hallway, and she said they're here. Even that Tulsi Gabbard is here. So our guy showed a video of Tulsi. She was all in black, had a black baseball cap on. She wasn't trying to do anything. Everything was done lawfully. Everything was done legally. They said the number of boxes we were supposed to get. So they gave us the boxes that had the fraudulent stuff in. We know we didn't get everything, and they didn't give us the rest of the items, but they gave us the stuff that had the fraud, and they knew way in advance that this was taking place. This was not the first time the subpoena was given to them.
What happened in Maricopa? So I know that Kristi Noem showed up
thing.
in Phoenix, and that I went on the podcast and said, "Hey, it was a raid. I may have jumped the gun a little bit, but I heard DHS entered the building, and I just went ahead and said, okay, it was a raid." But were they given everything, or what happened exactly in Maricopa?
I'm going to look at Maricopa. I sent you the pictures of the airport last night.
Because I know Kristi Noem was okay. You did all right. Kristi Noem was there in Phoenix
by email.
DHS entered the building, and I'm just. Oh, you sent it to my email.
So you could pull them right up.
Okay, cool.
There should be 4 of them.
Right. Yeah, it's just such craziness happening right now, and I know that the Democrats have to be absolutely, or not just the Democrats, the whole deep state has to be absolutely panicked on what's going on. I don't have them. You emailed to me, because I don't have them.
Email attached 4. Let me look.
And then we just lost Juan again. I don't know what happened to Juan. Maybe Juan will come back. Maybe he's done. I don't know.
I guess they're too big. I'm going to have to send them to you by text. Is that okay?
That's fine. I can just show them from the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, just send me and text, and then. But I wanted Juan to finish this. Maybe he had to go, but.
No, I'm here, Nino. I just had to
okay.
plug in because my battery is running low on my phone.
No. I'm just trying to get a grasp on what my audience can expect going into midterms. Now, Sheila said no midterms, or she said no 2020.
I said it could be because
I kind of agree with that, though. I think
everything has been leading up to the fact of the layers that we have to deal with, because when you actually deal with all of this, you have to completely start the whole structure over. And that's what I've been trying. And when I mentioned about the 40,000-foot view, is that Charles Joseph Bonaparte set up absolutely everything in the states before they were states. So every little village, town, city, county, they all have corporations above them that nobody's even addressing. It's not just the corporation over America. that had to be dealt with. Do you see what I mean? This structure was all set up the way that they could control every nation globally. He came in to do that. When he came here, who was he? He became Secretary of the Navy? How? And then becomes our Attorney General of America? How? They're positioning each other, and he set up the National Municipality League, and that league has been in control of who passes their merit-based system to even be on the ballot. And it says right in there that only 4 people are going to end up being actually elected by the people. You think everything has to change. Voter registration has to change. We've said this, and that's why people started coining. She's really pointing out we're at war in America, and we think the wars have been elsewhere. The war is here.
So
They
you're
sent
saying
our
that by
guys
the
to the
time,
other hemisphere. This is the first time President Trump is the first president who stopped focusing on the other side of the world and started focusing on us with our neighbors.
so this could be delayed then, most likely. That's what we could see, a delayed election. It could
If
just,
it ends up, my prayer is that because you have to completely deconstruct to not cause problems to then structure the republic. Because Jefferson warned us way back. He said, you can't just replace an evil. You just pull this evil out and replace it and pull this out. They set this structure up. That's point 43 of the 45 points. And that chapter was devastating because they did all of this to us within 2 years. Within
yeah.
2 years, they were already planning DC. And when they moved us into DC, we didn't know it was their own sovereign soil. But if you think about it, who could get anywhere? I mean, we're talking the 1700s. Everything was horseback. Few people had some buggies with some wheels. I mean, we're not realizing what we've been dealing with. And I've already said in the books, the territorial governors were positioned as territorial governors before there were even states. They were all high nobles in the Knights of Pythias. And that's why President Kennedy said everything secret is repugnant. All of this was set up. This structure was set up for us to be controlled the whole time. We have been a captured operation from the very beginning, and the centralized banks didn't start with Woodrow Wilson. The centralized banks were in 1791 with Hamilton as the
Well,
Secretary of
and
the
let me
Treasury.
just add this, by the way, when you talk about the banks, the banking was an issue all the way back to the founding of the republic. There was a fight because the British overlords, if you will, and the royal families of Europe understood that if we had our own treasury, our own minted money, and the banking that would follow, that we would be uncontrollable. So all the way along, establishing banks with secret cabals behind them was a key feature of the early fights, even 1812. And the fight there, there's an aspect of that that goes into the banking. And so it's, when President Trump put the security fencing around the White House after he had the military do their 250th anniversary, he put flags on either side of the White House front lawn, planted the flag right there in the middle of the swamp. It was like Mount Suribachi, with the military raising the flag, owning that island in the middle of this Sea of Tempest. And then he put security fencing around the White House. He only put security fencing around one other building, and it was symbolic. He didn't do Congress, the Supreme Court, the Federal Reserve. He did the Treasury. Because at the end of the day, the whole fight reduces down to having honest money by the American people and not being controlled over the money, the wealth of America. And so there's two things that President Trump intends to correct that lay the groundwork out into the future when he's no longer here and other people come in. And that is honest elections, number one, and honest money to support it. The one, it's two legs to stand on. You can't stand without those features as a country. And so honest elections, honest money. And then you control the borders, and all the other things that fall into place. If we have honest elections, we'll get people into office that'll do the will of the people. Right now, we're not getting people into office who are doing the will of the people because they didn't get there as an act of the will of the people. They don't actually represent the majority of Americans because they're getting into office through fraud. And then you think all the things that they're doing and you're frustrated. You can't, because they're not listening. Well, because they're not listening to you because they didn't get there by you. They got there through fraud. So honest elections, honest money. And then we can move forward to fix all the other things wrong with America. Does that click for
Yeah,
you?
that clicks perfectly. Sheila, do you want to add anything to that?
I'm sorry, I was busy sending you you've got all 4 pictures by
Okay.
text.
Oh, so this is
Sorry.
the pictures of.
That's the airport terminals, every one of them full, and every flight only flying to other
Oh
nations,
God,
nothing
I
flying
can't
in
do it like
America.
this. I have to. All right, hold on. Oh, you sent quite a bit.
4.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and show this here to my audience. It's pretty. These are all deportations right here. What airport is this?
This is up in Oakland last night.
What? What? Then they're doing this at what time?
Late.
Interesting.
There's two
Self-deportation.
terminals. This is the international terminal, and there's nobody else in the lines but the people that are deporting.
I'm gonna show this for my
Now, remember, Nino, the part of the incentive isn't just the money. If people self-deport, they have the legal right. We will allow them to then apply to come back through the front door, to come in with proper paperwork and be screened. If they don't self-deport and we pick them up and deport them, they cannot return to America the rest of their life. So people are understanding, especially because they have children, relatives, et cetera, that are here
but
legally,
a lot, but
or
a
they
lot,
want to.
but a lot are trying to wait it out. I know that for a fact.
And so now here was one other thing.
They don't think
You
Trump's
said,
gonna be here.
well, no, but when you said something a few minutes ago that was very important, there's this scuttlebutt that if they just wait a little longer, they're going to get more money. So wait and get paid more to leave. No. What do you think? Trump is that much of a country bumpkin?
What time is this
Excuse
at
me?
midnight?
You wait, you're going to get no money. Okay? So the whole point is somebody's putting it in there. No, just wait. They'll raise the amount. Instead of going home right now, don't get 2,500, get 5,000. That's a lie. They better get their ass out of here while they can so they have the ability to come back through the front door if they want to be able to do that, even to visit. They will not be able to come back to visit their family or kids. If they're deported, they will not be allowed back
But
in
these are
America.
the good people deporting. The other ones, the bad ones. I think the bad hombres they're sticking around, right?
Okay, and those ones, if we get rid of the ones that are wanting to cooperate, try to sort things out, now the ones that are left, we can be a little bit more direct. It's a lot smaller pool to deal with, and now we can, be a little bit stronger armed on this and get it done. One way or another, we're going to get it done. Those people that are self-deporting are agreeing and cooperating and keeping an option open for them in the future. That's why I told you when I advised my friend. I didn't know he was here as an illegal. He'd been here for like 21
Yeah,
years.
that's all of El Paso, man. That's why
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
dude, like what's gonna happen with El Paso? Like this is interesting to me because El Paso's all illegals, man. I mean, probably 50, 60% of the city population. I mean,
Yep.
what the economy just goes down? Like what how does this work for El Paso?
Well, actually, I mean, let me help you out on that, Nino. As we do what we're going to do across the border into Mexico, there will be more business and trade of a legitimate nature that develops over time. It's not instant. Rome wasn't built in a day. But in reality, El Paso is still going to be a major trade location. And for those people that retain the right to be able to come back into the country because they self deport and work with us, they'll be able to come back in on visas. They'll be able to come back in even for work. But they'll do it through the front door with screening. And the ones that we don't want here, the undesirables, the ones with criminal histories, sorry, no. So
Yeah.
we're going to change the type of people that come into El Paso and work with them. El Paso will probably be a major hub
I
out
mean,
into this whole thing. It'll be
you know what's crazy
fantastic.
about El Paso, man? It's like so many businesses are coming here, like Amazon, like the
Sure.
fulfillment centers and all that. And but I know it's all using AI anyway. So all
Remember,
these
it's going to be
illegals
a free
weren't going to
trade
have
zone.
jobs. What's
It's
that?
going to be a free trade zone as we engineer out what is in the plan. Okay, we're going to be working with Mexico. We're not building an iron wall. We're creating a situation where there's a buffer, and we will help and take primary enforcement within that buffered area. It'll still be Mexico, but we'll handle some of the enforcement because it's outside their capabilities, even politically, to take on the cartels. As you've said, they'd be in danger. Okay, well, we'll create a bigger monster for them to deal with.
I'm
And
just
it's
surprised that
foreign interference. It's foreign interference. Remember, China is right there with the cartels. Iran is right there with the cartels.
you
Cuba
know
is right there with the cartels.
I've
Okay.
seen I've seen some apartment complexes here in El Paso with yellow tape around it, and it looks like military and the police were working together from what I can see from like observing. So I
Yeah.
know they're probably in there taking down some like laboratories or cartel houses or stash houses. Something's going on in El Paso. I have seen this just
Yeah.
just casually driving by somewhere. I'm like, oh wow, that's interesting. But I thought, the tentacles of the cartels would be all over America. I mean, we know they're in Arizona with Katie Hobbs. She's now being investigated. We know it's all over Texas. There's communities here in Texas, New Mexico, Albuquerque. Like this is like the land of the cartels out here. And so I'm just surprised that nothing's kicked off yet. I mean, the only thing that's kicked off is one
Well, hold on,
drone
hold on.
going into
This is
airspace of
something.
the El Paso airport.
This is something that I think everybody has to kind of. I've said it over and over, but I don't think it's quite clicked yet. Trump has a method of the way he tends to do business on a lot of this stuff. He will puff his chest, beat his chest, talk in very, almost obnoxious terms. It's a New Yorker style. Okay. Just remember this. Part of the reason Trump ever got into office is because of that New York businessman style. And they tend to be ready to, go to fisticuffs. They'll talk nice, but then the second you say something that's not quite it, they're they're just as sharp as can be to come back at you. And it's part of the character, the nature of that crowd. Okay, it's why Trump can come in and have a different demeanor than this, you know, soft pedaled, oh yeah, we're just going to work, lion thieving crowd that is, this university crowd or something that has been part of the takeover of America. Trump's coming in, he's knocking things over, and he's, ready to go to a fight. It's a bullfight, and you're in a china shop. Okay, well, we're going to take it all down, but I'm taking the bull out, whatever I got to do, because I can't let it be here any longer. He races up to the
Yeah.
line of demarcation. He tells you he's coming, and then he pauses. You're all ready to get tackled, and he pauses.
He faints.
Right at the line, he's doing a feint. He's doing a thing. Now you have to decide, are you coming at him? Are you going to grapple with him? What are you going to do? Remember, I'll use Venezuela as an example. We're coming. We got everybody there. And all of the media. He's going to invade tonight. We know we have a person inside that's told us the troops are landing. They're bombing everything. They're going to destroy everything. How much of that happened? Other than going in and getting Maduro, we didn't go in and invade. We didn't go bomb the whole place to smithereens. We actually worked with the generals behind the scenes who gave us, and the political people who gave us where Maduro was at, every last ounce of what was going on security wise. We had the whole thing
And that
and
set the
got
tone.
it.
That set
And
the tone
so
throughout South America.
think about how he has spoken in the campaign and after he came into office. He took out the gang leaders instantly. They were, we have pictures, video that was given to the public of the guys arriving in Gitmo, gang leaders arriving at Tren de Aragua. guys arriving in Gitmo in their orange jumpsuit, walking through the gates. Okay. Trump did that. He did that in a very demonstrative way within the various communities. Then the second tier leadership of the gangs had to decide, are they staying and fighting? It caused disarray within the gangs. And we started picking them apart. We got their ammunition shipments that were coming in as though we just accidentally pulled a van over here there. But that was the gang leaders giving us the information: who's moving what, where they're going to come through, what are their routes and timing. They gave us everything. So we've been dismantling. You were one of the people who was saying they're going to be kicking doors in and shooting up people and killing people everywhere. They're
That's what
going
I
to cause
thought.
drama in America. Has it happened?
I'm surprised, man. I can't believe it.
Because we had a plan. The Trump team had a plan. They went in, they
But
took
I'm
out some of the
still
leaders, and
surprised
then
nothing
they
happened.
let them know that we're ready to go to war with you. And those guys had to blink. Okay.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we haven't let the pressure up.
Is there still a chance, Juan?
Places. Well, there's always going to be a chance, but think about it. Would what the gangs would do today be the same as what they thought they could do and intended to do and would have done had they got the chance last March and April? They got their teeth pulled in many ways. Now, are they still a threat? Of course, they're still a threat. There's threats across the world, and in fact, even going to Munich and talking about how they're going to do this and that, and Trump's doing this illegal, and Tulsi that, and everything else. They're trying to rabble rouse amongst our other countries, our supposed allies across NATO and like that, to come against what Trump is doing. But the reality is, there's the wrong audience, the wrong place. The American people are starting to get it more fully. There's a component of the American electorate that gets it completely, and probably, Nino, within this audience, most of this audience is pretty on board with the things that Trump is doing and taking out the cartels and getting people to self-deport, etc. He's giving room. He's made sure they understand the gravity of the situation, our intent, the plan, where we're going, and now he's given them room to think about it and decide, yeah, I actually don't want that fight. Just like I had the conversation early on with my friend who'd been doing work for me for probably 10 years in the auto stuff. And he pulls his whole family up, 21 people, and goes down to Mexico where he'd been paying for a farm. He actually wanted to go there to retire, but he picks everybody up, goes to Mexico, self-deported at his own expense,
So,
shut everything down. There's other people that are doing that. They're smart. He was really smart because he did that last spring. He got ahead of the rest of the crowd. He's actually doing very well. We've communicated back and forth. Uh, he actually has a project down there. He'd love me to, buy and let him do, and I'm thinking about it.
but a standoff. But you do agree that a standoff is coming. I mean, a big
Well,
standoff
because
coming with the blue
but it's
states.
going to be with a lot smaller group, because what we've done is we've weeded out a lot of the main parts of the problem, and now you're left with not the gang leaders, not the people that are completely sold out to Satan himself, but to second and third tier people who are still a threat, but they're not, uh, you know, they're not El Gaucho. Okay,
They're not the
El
organizers.
Chapo.
They're not the head honchos.
No, and they're not quite as sharp, not quite as sophisticated. They're having battles. Who gets to run the gang between the captains now, and they're fractured. So even, for example, with what we're doing with Iran, Iran was being a serious, serious threat, including the potential nuclear stuff that we've been hunting for some missing material. You think Iran is able to export the terror as effectively as they have been? Even I'm doing some stuff right now related to the Congo. And Iran hasn't had the reach into the Congo that they had 2 years ago, year and a half ago. And it's changing the nature of the situation, even the negotiations to get the mining in there. It's not fixed. There's actually serious problems, but Iran is less and less a factor there. Well, we're bringing a second aircraft carrier task force group into the Mediterranean to support our operations there if we have to go into Iran and do something. Well, excuse me, I think it's the Red Sea area. Take that back. Within that broader thing, Trump is racing to the line and then raising the stakes, and they got to decide, he looks serious. Oh, crap. He looks really serious. Oh, crap. I know he's serious now. Okay, I know he's serious. He's forcing them to the position. Do you really, really, really want the fight, or can we negotiate? And those people self-deporting see where this is going. It's not getting lighter. The pressure's getting heavier. They see what's going on TV up in Michigan and Minnesota and other places. And they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to. And Trump doesn't put the pressure everywhere. He puts the pressure at key points, key pressure points. When you're fighting with somebody, one of the most important things, anybody that's had police training or military training, you learn where pressure points are, that if you can control that nerve in a place in the shoulder, in the thumb, the wrist, if you can control the nerve in that area, one tiny pressure point, you can force somebody, they cannot function because that is so all encompassing. We're hitting pressure points within these operations against America internally, and it affects everywhere else. And so we're not going to fight everybody everywhere all the time here in America. Ultimately, they're going to self-centralize to 14 cities.
Yes.
Okay. And we'll deal with
this year,
we'll
you think? This year or next
Well,
year?
we're doing it right now. It's not a matter of which year. We're doing it right now. And it's been ongoing. It's closing the loop. And to try and put a date on it's probably not the correct way to do it.
Okay.
There may be date thresholds, but it's checkpoints.
Got
And
markers,
so you're moving
checkpoints.
through checkpoints to get in. And that's even with the American people. Is there stuff that Trump wants to do? Absolutely. Even declaring a national emergency. But when you read the numbers on where people are at across the country, one of the things I've told your audience, you have to have 80+% of the population in agreement. They don't have to be precise in agreement, but in a general agreement on certain things that you're doing. At 80+%, it's an exact number, by the way.
Okay.
You do not have the threat of the country falling into civil war, even if you have civil unrest. What these Pelosi and these other people were hoping, even back to January 6th, was that they would start a fire that would go to a full-blown civil war, and that they could cause it to happen in a way where Trump would get blamed, where conservatives would get blamed, where we would take the blame.
And
they'd start it, but we'd take the blame. That was what January 6th was all about. They didn't understand. Think about this. This is a really important point, Nino. They underestimated the character, the personality of the people that showed up in Washington, D.C., and the numbers. Arguably over 1 million, maybe as high as 2 million people showed up in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Beyond that, all of those people represented several tens of millions who would have been there if they could have. They were there on their cell phones, talking with people, sharing with friends and relatives, like-minded people across the country, what was happening in Washington, D.C., who were there virtually, but not able to be there in person. Now look at what Trump just did. President Trump, days ago, asked for, remember, in the days leading up to January 6th, in 2020, after that meeting at the White House on December 18th, and then the meeting with the generals on December 19th that I've talked about many times with Byrne and Powell and the Flynn's and like that. When that meeting happened, immediately in that context, President Trump asked the American people, he called for them. Okay, he put out a call to the American people. Would you please show up as citizens to be present, to observe like people in the courtroom observing the actions of a judge and jury in a trial. Come as witnesses on January 6th to Washington, D.C. And he was going to give a speech that Congress would do the right thing, where they were planning to certify an election, but there was obviously fraud and foreign interference in that election. And in fact, the director of national intelligence then, Radcliffe, said there was foreign interference in the election in 2020, but we don't know if it was enough to change the outcome. We don't know. Well, then you should pause. And in fact, the whole issue with January 6th was that states were going to fight back and say, don't let Arizona certify the election. They're out of sorts. Don't let Georgia certify the election because something's wrong there. And these states were going to be called out. But before they could have the votes, the insurrection took place with the people that were there trying to break into the House and to the Senate and to disrupt the operations, all contrived. And Nancy Pelosi is at the core of that whole operation and is the villain, not the victim.
And she's still at it.
And she's still at it
Still doing
because she knows we're coming, okay? The truth is coming out about January 6th. But now look at the next step. What has Trump just asked for? And this time, instead of getting 2 weeks to show up, this time you've got several months to show up. He made the announcement last week. He called out to the American people. I want to rededicate, I want to lead the American people in rededicating America to God Almighty in heaven. In contrast with the released Epstein files, which if you look at what's been released so far, which is 1/2 of the 6 million pages, there's 3 million that have been released. In the pages that have been released thus far, the biggest takeaway of all is that Epstein and people around him are Baal worshipers, satanic cult. He's doing the bidding of the Rothschilds, another Baal worshiping family, according to many, many, many accounts. Okay. So, with that in mind, you have a contrast. Trump is calling on the American people. We're under satanic attack by these people who are doing the work of the devil, evil. And the only way ultimately to counter this, as Sheila has said, Father, there's only 2 sides, heavenly and hellish. And we choose the heavenly side. Before the pilgrims set foot on the soil, on the boat, with the land in sight, they made a covenant with God in heaven to dedicate their lives and their progeny's lives, the people that they were going to plant in this new world, there at Plymouth Rock, to God, to his service, to a nation under God. And what Trump is doing
is bringing that back.
Is bringing that back and rededicating, look at his words, rededicating America to service to God for the world.
Let me get
and for America. And so let me finish this thought real quick, Nino. Almost done. He put out the call just the same as he did, but only with a couple weeks. This audience has time to think about it. He's also asked that from May 17th, why did he choose that date? 3 times 1751, a contested date, by the way, for the cabal that we're fighting against, all their secret plans. The most secret base in America, Area 51. 51 is a key cabal number, okay? And he picked a date where it's 51 days to this, July 4th thing, okay? This new America thing. So you have, and he's asked for, it's actually 49 days, and then the 51st day is the new day after 4th of July. So he's picked a day to start a prayerful period for America before July 4th. That's why he picked May 17th.
Interesting.
And he's asking everybody to be in prayer during that 49 days. 7 times 7. He's a big seven guy. Okay. Remember, Trump, just so you understand the psyche,
Right.
the mentality of the people around him and himself. Why did he pick that exact day? Because Trump was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days
7 days.
old on his first full day in office, not on January 20th, 2017, but on January 21st. Remember, the 20th is the inauguration,
Right.
the ball, all of the
Let's
hanging
let
out,
me
the parties. But the next day, he
right.
goes to work 7 o'clock in the morning and begins his shift as the new president of the United States, doing things. It was that was his first day, was January 21st, 2017, of actually getting to work. In this situation, again, the sevens, he's not a slave to the numbers, but there is some symbology to that. God himself uses numbers, 40 days and
Well, let
40
me
nights, all sorts of things. He's picked that
okay.
day because it has a symbolic cadence to it that he wants people to understand. We are going to be in prayer to July 4th. He's calling the American people to be there in Washington, D.C. physically as much as possible and virtually to rededicate America to service to God, to get us on the right tack, to come against the evil that has been infiltrating with the Epstein crowd and all the politicians and judges and business people along with them, and hijacked church people, by the way. And that when we get to our Independence Day, July 4th, that by then we will have prepared hearts to receive what we're supposed to get. It is a fight
It's a call
between
to
good
it's a
and
call to action.
evil.
Call to
And
action.
it's asking for divine protection,
So let me
divine
let
assistance,
me get
because this
Sheila's
is so far beyond just a physical fight. We battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of darkness in high places.
so Sheila, do you have any closing thoughts on that? A lot
We have
there.
to do this. This is what the Pilgrims did. That's why they put up the Faith Monument. They wanted it to be a 500-year plan. So if you live by those four pillars on the Faith Monument for 500 years, you would never have to worry about falling back into where we are now. And it didn't last the 250 years. But after Christ gave us the total truth, and God, we've talked about this on your show before, which was the lead up to doing this book. I was just, if you want me to do this, I'll add the scriptures. And he said, you can't just do that. It has to be a training manual. I'm like, why? And he said, because the future generations have to know how to retain this. And so that's why the Pilgrims dedicated this nation to the Lord. And the difference, and we also, I think, did a quick interview when I found the covenant that they made in 1607, because everyone thinks I'm wrong for not being on the board of directors of 1607. And I said I didn't even attend because God said no, because they covenanted with Britain going forward in evangelizing America and the world. And Britain is what the Pilgrims knew they had to get away from, because the grooming of the children, everything we're experiencing now was happening. And that's what's happened in all the nations. And that's why, to try and put more on Trump, when people said he turned his back on America and turned toward Maduro and Venezuela, that's not true. He's helping our neighbors. He's bringing out the truth about the neighbors. And it's very emotional for me, because if Father hadn't whispered to me, U.S. State Department statement, Second Panama Canal Treaty, would we have resecured the Panama Canal? I mean, everything has been hidden from us. But our problem is, and I have not had a conversation with the president or anyone around the president about this, but religion is completely misunderstood. And that's why I've been emphasizing the only undefiled religion is in James. The only undefiled religion, because they turned it into the Holy Roman Catholic Church by the Holy Roman Emperor as a one world order. And no one's understood that. And the word Catholic means universal. So I've been beating this drum for so long, because if we don't come away from Gentile worship on the venerable day of the sun to honor the God of the sun, as the Roman emperors did. And again, he died 12 years after he did this to us, and Rome fell, 50 years later in 75. in 375, and they did this to us. It was all secured by 325 AD. And when Father said, "Did I not send my son? And in 250 years, did they not destroy everything that he had put in place?" And so that's what really threw me for a loop, because I thought he wanted me to focus on the pilgrims and what they brought. But if we don't start operating in truth, if we keep saying we're Christians and we go through this whole Gentile thing, Christ didn't do any of this. It wasn't even in exist. It was in existence because the Gentiles always worshiped this. But that was the downfall in Nineveh, because Nineveh was the capital of Assyria. And that's when Father took out his 10 tribes. That's why they've been the lost tribes ever since. So would we not learn the lesson? He just gave that to us in that 30 clips. And we're the ones who did that first interview. The three of us were on the call that day. Do you remember that, Nino?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
And Juan said, add the scriptures and give the message. And I was like, and I'm going to be on in an hour. And so, but
I remember that
that,
clearly. Yeah.
yeah. And because I have not wanted to go that far, because I get targeted so much. I don't explain to people all the targeting that's happened since the Linwood event 4 years ago, but it'll be 5 years in July. There's just, I'm being targeted all the time. And so I'm having to be very, very cautious. But if we don't want to do this, how are we going to have our country back?
I
Okay,
agree.
let me
And
just dive in for 1 second. For a lot of the people listening, I can hear you right now, the dates, the times, in a generic sense, what the takeaway is for most of the people listening is there is a battle between good and evil, and these entities, groups, people that are given into one camp or the other. America has been a battleground for secret handshake groups for a very long time, because the threat of America is independence from these bloodline families, these groups whose names you don't know, the people running them you don't know. I mean, we talk about Rothschild, not the Dutch are right in this, okay? Dutch East Indies Corporation and all sorts of things. The Dutch running Greenland. When Trump is doing a lot of this stuff, he actually does understand the intricacies, and the people behind Trump have gamed out the intricacies of all of these groups, their connections, and their attempts to continue to tie us down like Gulliver with thousands of ropes at every appendage across our throat to restrict our breathing, to hold us down, because these groups understand that if we break free America, we do things across the world, not just for ourselves, but because we don't have the same aspirations to run other countries. They try to project what they're doing. America's going to run everything and they're going to take over everything. No, as we get free of their control, we're going out not to enslave our brothers, not to
But to free them.
manage our brothers, but to be our brother's brother,
All right,
to
guys, I
be
got a
our
hard stop
sister's
here.
brother, to be America helping our other nations shoulder to shoulder, specifically at this moment in time, the 71 countries besides the United States where this international cabal using Venezuela, Cuba, Serbia, other associated countries run by China, the
Right.
money, and these globalista have been stealing elections across the world. And the battleground right now is these elections. And
The
coming up
midterms.
on it, we have to enter a period of prayer, rededication. Just like people sometimes, couples decide that they've been married for a long time and they decide to have a second marriage ceremony, not because the first wasn't valid, but to commit to those vows. And it's a
The
loving
wedding vows,
thing.
right?
Okay. And this is what we're being asked to do right now, to recommit, to get our brains right as a people and to focus. And the called, this is President Trump reaching out to all those people that were there at the first January 6th and all the other ones that didn't have time or couldn't manage it at the National Mall to be present as witnesses.
Okay, Juanito,
And those that
I got a
can't
hard
be there
stop here.
directly, others be able to come virtually again, but everybody show up. That's the big thing right now.
That's beautiful. And I do have a hard stop. I got to jump on to the next podcast in 5 minutes, less than that. Sheila, I appreciate you coming on. That's hisbest.org. And Juanito, the DJenniferMac.com, correct?
Yeah, in fact, Jen's putting together a May 17th package. It should be up by the time this show's up. And because you're the called. And within what we did with the movie, which was released January 7th, the day after January 6th, back in 2021. So we're getting ready for that. It's a very big deal. And I think everybody here needs to start thinking in those terms. President put out a call. Let's respond to it. You have more leadway, but it's about everything worth living for, everything we are as a nation. This is far more important than most people have caught so far. This audience needs to lead the way with other similar audiences in responding to this call, not to be there for Trump, but to be there before God Almighty, please God, because we're about to face some huge things shortly, bigger than anything we've ever faced as a nation in this fight between good versus evil.
And Sheila, you have a book?
Yeah, An Eternal Plan is now in hardback, and you can get an autographed copy. It's all on the homepage, right under the introduction video on the homepage at hisbest.org.
Hisbest.org and DJenniferMac.com, folks. Guys, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. We went an hour and a half. I thought we were going to go like 40 minutes. I got to jump. Folks.
Well, I just want to say, Nino, we're focused on the Western Hemisphere now. The president's made it clear we have never been. This is the first president who's ever been good to the neighbors. He's helping Mexico with that president. He's helping because Maduro here. He's helping in all of these areas.
Cuba's
and
coming.
They're our neighbors.
Cuba's coming.
Oh, boy. All right, guys. I'll see you. Thank you for joining me.
All right.
God bless you. God bless you both.
Right.
Stay with me just for a second.